In 1997, a satellite orbiting Earth captured something so inexplicable, so utterly terrifying, that its very existence was immediately classified and hidden from the public. What if I told you that for years, governments worldwide have been quietly tracking an entity, not from the stars, but from the crushing depths beneath our oceans, an entity that defies every known law of physics and biology? A being that, according to declassified documents, emits an energy signature so vast, so ancient, that it could rewrite our understanding of life itself. What is it? And why are they so desperate to keep it a secret? To understand this chilling mystery, we need to go back to the summer of 1997. It was an ordinary Tuesday when hydrophones across the Pacific started picking up an anomaly. Not the familiar rumble of an earthquake, nor the distant whine of a submarine, but something else entirely. Something immense and deeply unnatural. Initially, scientists dismissed it as seismic interference, a natural byproduct of the volatile ring of fire. But then the Bloomin event, as it was internally coded, began to repeat. Not randomly, but with a rhythmic, almost deliberate pulse. This wasn't geology. This was communication, or something even stranger. The sound itself defied description. Imagine a bass note so low it didn't just vibrate your ears, but your very bones. A frequency that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. It was like the planet itself was sighing, a mournful, agonizing exhalation from some forgotten lung deep within the abyssal plains. Dr. Aris Thorne, a leading acoustician then working for the U.S. Navy, was one of the first to analyze the data. His initial report, now heavily redacted, spoke of unprecedented sonic signatures and biological indicators inconsistent with known marine life. In simpler terms, whatever was making this sound was alive, and it shouldn't exist. The sheer power required to propagate such a low-frequency hum across entire ocean basins was astronomical, suggesting a creature of unimaginable scale. The Bloomin event wasn't just a sound, it was an act, a deliberate signal sent by something colossal lurking in the perpetual darkness of the deep ocean, far beyond the reach of sunlight and human understanding. The implications were staggering, and the silence from official channels was deafening. What were they hiding? The initial acoustic anomaly was unnerving enough, but as months turned into a year, the phenomenon escalated, twisting from an auditory enigma into a full-blown existential threat. The rhythmic hum intensified, and soon it wasn't just sounds. Remote seismic sensors in the Mariana's Trench began registering faint, almost imperceptible tremors. Not tectonic shifts, but localized repetitive impacts, as if something gargantuan was moving, displacing unimaginable volumes of water. Then came the biological oddities. Commercial fishing vessels, particularly those operating in the deeper parts of the Pacific, started reporting unprecedented changes in marine ecosystems. Entire schools of fish would vanish overnight, only to reappear hundreds of miles away in a state of catatonic paralysis, their scales dulled, eyes wide and unseeing. Some deep-sea organisms, previously thought to be extinct or purely theoretical, began washing ashore across various coastlines. Creatures with bioluminescent patterns never before documented and internal anatomies that baffled marine biologists. It was as if the ocean's very fabric was being rewritten. Governments, alarmed by the escalating unusual activity, covertly launched Project Siren's Song, a multinational effort to understand and, if necessary, contain this burgeoning threat. Elite teams of oceanographers, physicists, and even xenolinguists were brought together in a secret facility deep in the Nevada desert, tasked with deciphering the Bloomin event. Their mission: to locate the source, determine its nature, and assess the potential for catastrophic global impact. The initial attempts to directly track the source using deep ocean autonomous vehicles yielded only corrupted data feeds, electromagnetic interference, and the haunting, intensified hum that seemed to warp their instruments. Whatever it was aware, and it was protecting itself. The tension mounted with each failed attempt. Scientific curiosity morphed into desperate fear. The world's leading minds, accustomed to unraveling complex puzzles, were confronted with an entity that defied scientific principles, laughing in the face of their understanding. They were no longer studying a phenomenon. They were facing a sentient force, an ancient power stirring from an aeons-long slumber. And it was starting to wake up. The culmination of Project Siren's song was an unprecedented and ultimately catastrophic deep-sea deployment in late 1999. Dubbed Operation Lazarus, it involved a trio of highly advanced, experimental submersibles, each boasting state-of-the-art shielding and navigation systems designed to push beyond the known limits of manned exploration. Their mission: to descend directly into the heart of the Mariana Trench, to the very epicenter of the Bloomin signal. The deep-sea vehicles, named Triton, Poseidon, and Kraken, were humanity's desperate gamble, packed with specialized sensory equipment and crewed by the bravest, or perhaps the most foolhardy, deep-ocean explorers. The descent was agonizingly slow, a multi-day journey into the crushing darkness. As they approached the designated coordinates, the instruments went wild. The low-frequency hum intensified to an unbearable thrum, vibrating through the hull so violently that the crew described it as being held inside a gigantic, living drum. Onboard cameras, previously showing only inky blackness, began to flicker with an impossible internal light, like a living aurora borealis, pulsing with unknown energies. Then came the visual. Kraken, the lead submersible, was the first to transmit an image back to the surface. It was indistinct, blurred by the immense pressure and atmospheric distortions, but undeniably, horrifyingly, there. A shape, vague, ancient, and impossibly immense. It wasn't a creature in the traditional sense, but more akin to a living geological formation, a vast, undulating mass of something organic and crystalline, interwoven with tendrils that seemed to drink in the ambient light. It was then, as Triton began to maneuver closer, that the psychic attack began. Every crew member across all three submersibles reported a sudden, overwhelming onset of existential dread, crippling disorientation, and vivid, shared hallucinations. They saw fractured images of forgotten civilizations, cosmic horrors, and their deepest, most primal fears made manifest. One log entry from Poseidon, scrawled by a crewman moments before comms went dark, simply read, "It doesn't just live here. It is here. It is everything." Triton was the first to implode, not from pressure, but from an internal rupture, a catastrophic failure of structural integrity, as if its very molecular bonds had been violently torn apart. Poseidon flatlined moments later, its last transmission a gurgling shriek. Only Kraken, severely damaged and its crew catatonic, managed to initiate an emergency ascent. Project Siren's song extracted two survivors from Kraken, both suffering from acute psychosis, rambling about ancient consciousnesses and the futility of human existence. Their minds were irrevocably broken, tainted by whatever alien intellect had reached out from the abyss. The horrifying truth became clear. The entity wasn't just a biological marvel. It was a psychically resonant, intensely powerful force, capable of mental manipulation and perhaps even reality alteration. It wasn't merely in the ocean. It was a part of the ocean, an ancient primordial consciousness that had slumbered for millennia, and humanity had just rudely awakened it. And it was not happy. To this day, the details of Project Siren's song and the Bloomin event remain classified at the highest levels, whispered only in hushed tones within shadowy government agencies. The true nature of the entity, codenamed Leviathan Prime, remains shrouded in mystery, its existence a terrifying secret known only to a select few. The few survivors of Operation Lazarus were debriefed, then disappeared into black sites, their fragmented testimonies likely forming the basis of ongoing, desperate research into psychic countermeasures and defense protocols. What was seen, what was felt, what was communicated in those terrifying moments in the deepest trench fundamentally shattered humanity's fragile perception of its place in the universe. We thought we were at the top of the food chain, masters of our domain. But beneath the waves, an ancient, unimaginable power stirs, one that views us not as adversaries, but perhaps as insignificant ripples on the surface of its vast, dark consciousness. The ocean, once seen as a realm of discovery, became a veil, hiding something truly monstrous. We may never know the full extent of this ancient terror, or when it will fully awaken. All we know is that something extraordinary and profoundly dangerous lies dormant in the depths, watched by a world that pretends it doesn't exist, praying it stays asleep. The silence is not peaceful, it's the quiet before the storm. And if you're looking for more unsettling truths hidden from plain sight, the next video explores the chilling stories of abandoned Soviet-era deep-sea research stations and what they went dark trying to escape.